Disrupting Japan, Episode 65. Welcome to Disrupting Japan, straight talk from Japan's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening. Today, Naoki Yamada, founder of Conyac, joins us for a second time. Long-term listeners may remember that he first came on the show a little over 2 years ago, and he's been very busy since then. In August 2016, Naoki sold his company to Rozetta for about $12 million. But that deal almost didn't happen. And today, Naoki joins us again to tell us the story of massive growth, followed by near bankruptcy, followed by massive growth, followed by near bankruptcy, followed by recovery, and then finally followed by M&A. So, you already know the ending, but it's the story that's important. Naoki talks very openly about some of the mistakes he made and gives solid advice on how you can avoid making the same ones. And of course, he explains how he handled the negotiations for the acquisition and why he decided to exit now rather than continue to grow the company. But you know, Naoki tells that story much better than I do. So let's hear from our sponsor and then get right to the interview. I want to tell you about Justa. Now, I've known these guys for years, and I've been recommending them long before they became a sponsor. Justa is really the only recruiting site that gets bilingual startups. Whether you're looking for American engineers or Japanese sales staff or the other way around, Justa can help you out. Unlike recruiting companies, they're priced to be very startup-friendly, and unlike job boards, they're an active part of the startup community here, and they're trusted by some of the best talent Japan has to offer. So drop by justa.io and see what they're about.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yes.
It's great to see you.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here with Naoki Yamada, and we're going to talk about Conyac.
Yeah.
And it's an exciting story of starting up and growing and almost going bankrupt and growing and almost going bankrupt again and having a happy ending. So thanks for sitting down with us.
Thank you.
So let's back up a bit.
Okay.
Let's back up a lot. Tell us about what Conyac is.
When was the last time we talked?
A little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while and we changed a lot. We started Conyac service as a social transaction, and we slightly changed our service from consumer service to business service, to B service,
Right.
in 2013.
So let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So in 2009, right? You started it. What is consumer translation? Was it like peer-to-peer translation?
It was more like, community-based translation service. At that time, there's only two options for the translations. One is traditional translation agencies, and the other one is Google, like, machine translation stuff. We wanted to make a service in between those two options. So we asked people who can do the translations outside of your community. We aggregated many translators in our platform, and we asked translation to those people.
So was it just very small batch translations of
Right.
10 words or a tweet
Right.
or that kind of thing?
Most of the translations are for Twitters and small sentences like, letters and stuff. It worked for pleasure, but it didn't work as a business.
Just not enough demand?
Right.
Okay.
And it was hard to find people who pays for that.
Yeah, okay. So once you learned that, you were saying you pivoted to more of a B2B model.
Right. It was 4 years after the service was started. So it took a long time.
It took a long time to realize that.
Yeah. And since 2013, we pivoted a bit to B2B service. And the sales increased slightly from that point.
At that point, the company was, as you were pivoting to B2B, how big was your company? How much revenue? How much staff?
The revenue was like about $50,000 a month.
Okay.
And the staff at the time was like 10 people.
Okay, so that's back in 2013.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're on your way.
On that year, we got investment from several venture capitals, and we used a lot of money
Well,
for the people we hired.
that's what startups are supposed to do.
Right. I was thinking that if I hire more people, we can raise more sales and revenues.
Okay.
But it didn't work well.
Okay, so how big was the round?
It was not that big for the current, variation. It was like $0.6 million.
Okay, $600,000.
Yes.
And you went out and you hired how many people?
About 15 people.
Oh, wow. So you went from like 6 people to 20 people.
Right.
20 people, that's a lot of people for
that
600,000 investment.
Right.
Yeah.
Without that much revenue. Yeah.
You had to be burning through cash.
Right. Yeah.
How did you do that? Let's talk about that, because that is having to hire that many people in how short a time frame?
Like a year.
So what kind of people were you hiring? Mostly sales staff?
We hired a couple of salespeople, and also we hired engineers. It was good to create a new features, but it didn't link to the sales. So that functions it didn't lead to the real money. So
the engineers were generating new features, but it wasn't helping to drive revenue.
Right.
And well, when you're growing that fast, so how do you maintain a corporate culture when you triple the size of the company in 1 year?
It was a big mistake I had. I didn't think that much about the culture and stuff. So everyone think differently, and teams were spreading into many parts.
So different teams just going in different directions?
Right. After a year and a half, many of the members started to leave the company because of lack of culture and lack of a big vision. And at that time, we decided to pivot our service a bit to more like general crowdsourcing service. It was a crowdsourcing translation service at that time.
Right.
And we decided to change it to more like bilingual crowdsourcing service that we can order things besides translations, like, research, marketing.
So if someone wanted to create like blog posts?
Right, that's true.
Okay, all right.
It worked well, but many of our members think that we lost our culture and vision at that time.
But I can understand that, right? Because the company's pivoting a bit. You've got different teams going in different directions.
Yeah.
So how'd you try to pull it together?
Actually, we couldn't make it get together. The teams were about to explode, and many people left the company, and about less than 10 people were left.
Okay, so you went from like 6 people to 20 people.
Then going down to about 6 people again.
6 people again. So was the people who left, was that people who left because they were frustrated and tired, or was
Yes, I guess.
Or was it people, did you have to lay people off because you were running out of money?
I was not actually laying off people. They left.
They left? But you didn't hire replacements for them?
It was hard to replace people because we are actually losing money. So if we replace people, the money will...
I can imagine this is a very frustrating situation.
Right. For about 1 year, it was tough.
So you went to 6 to 20
Yes.
to 6 again. Was it the same 6 people?
No.
Oh.
Only a couple of people are the same.
Well, that sounds like a really difficult thing to go through. Looking back at it, now that you've kind of come out the other side, what would you do differently?
I could do many things differently. If I were there right now, I would create a solid culture and tell people more about what we are doing and why we are doing that kind of stuff.
So communicate the vision and the activities.
Right. I didn't talk that much with the members at that time because of... I can't remember why I didn't talk, but...
Well, believe me, I understand. A lot of it is, as a CEO, the job is very stressful just by itself.
Right.
And sometimes talking to staff, talking to all the staff, it always seems like something you can delay.
Right.
You can do it next week, or there's no urgency to it.
Mm-hmm. And also, I was actually considering that the money is, we are losing a lot of money. So I was thinking to get investment, in the next round. At that time, so I was talking a lot with the investors, so I didn't have that much time with the members. That was my excuse.
So did you know things were going wrong, or did you just have not enough time to deal with it?
I was noticing about the situations, but I was not looking at it directly. So that was my biggest mistake.
Your advice to other founders would be like...
Talk with the members.
Deal with the members even?
Yeah, deal with the members.
First priority.
Yes.
Okay. At this point, you've pivoted a bit. You're doing translation. You're doing general bilingual content creation. You're back down to 6 people.
Yeah.
What was the company looking like this? What were your revenues? And
we are almost bankrupt at that time. Within 3 months or so. Then one of the sales member got a big deal from a big company. Then we survived.
Oh.
And that was the biggest deal for a company for the whole 7 years, I guess.
Did you have to take on more staff to get this deal, to execute this deal? Or was it something that was just pure revenue for you at this point?
It was a pure revenue.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what year was this?
It was 2015.
2015?
Yes.
Okay. So 2015, things are starting to look up again.
Yes.
You're getting revenue. Mm-hmm. What made you think about selling at this point? Or were you thinking about selling at this point?
We actually talking with many companies at the time about the next round of the investment, also the M&A.
Okay, so what happened? It sounds like a very narrow escape. You've got enough revenue, so you're not going out of business. Mm-hmm. You're out shopping for new investments and chatting with M&A. And what happens next? I
was actually talking with many companies and spent a lot of time in discussions. But things are working concurrently because you have to run a business as well.
Sure.
So I was doing the sales by myself as well. Things were starting to move faster. At the end of 2015, we got many big clients at that time, and we could increase sales and revenues. From the end of last year, sales went well since then, and many companies started to have interest with our company. So I talked more companies about M&A. We found a good company to sell.
So at that point, did you want to get acquired, or were you trying to raise a round?
I thought it was just a way of get our business bigger. IPO or M&A, whichever option is just a way of getting money or make our company bigger.
That makes sense, but from you guys,
as a founder.
So as a founder, you were finally hitting a good growth period. Mm-hmm. At the time of the M&A, you were doing about $5 million US dollars in revenue. You were turning a profit, like over $2 million, almost $3 million in profit. So what made you decide to go with the M&A route rather than another round of fundraising?
I thought it will take time to go for IPO. It will take like a couple years. So it would take time, and the market is expanding right now. Also, the inbound things are getting bigger and bigger right now. So I think it is time for us to go to the next stage right now. And if I go with the fundraising, it will take time.
So you didn't want to try to double the company in a year and sell it for twice as much next year?
I was not thinking about it at the time. I was kind of tired of working on M&A at the time, so I think I was more like desired.
You were looking for that exit,
right? I was desiring to focus on the business itself. I was not able to focus on what we are doing for like a year because
Right, you were in constant fundraising mode for a year.
Right, for a year and a half. So I guess it was time for me to focus on the business.
Okay. Well, that's true. I mean, people think of these, whether it's M&A or IPO, they tend to think of them as strictly financial decisions.
Right.
But they're not just financial decisions. There's a very real human cost in it.
Right. Right. And also, we met many good companies who I thought a lot of synergy. So that is the biggest.
So you sold to Rozetta. How did that deal come to be? Did you originally approach them for investment? Did they approach you saying they're interested in buying? How did the negotiations work?
I met many companies, and I was approaching as a fundraising. I told them that I was thinking of raising some money to grow the business. And during the talk, they are interested in acquiring us, and I decided to switch to more on M&A. About Rozetta, I reached that company from the bank. Bank introduced us. I met them in early May, and we deeply started to talk about M&A from late July.
In 2016?
This year.
So that deal was done very quickly.
Yeah, it was fast, couple of weeks.
Yeah. That's astounding.
Yeah.
Now, M&A in Japan is still, I wouldn't say it's unusual, but it's not as common. It's not as common as it is in the U.S. So let's talk about what did they want? So what were they worried about? What were they excited about? Because I'm sure all startup founders in Japan want to know this.
After I talked with many companies, I was noticed that many companies are trying to buy the companies, but they don't know who is selling the company.
Oh.
So there's mismatching here. That is the biggest problem, I thought. There's a couple companies are doing matching for the M&A.
Right.
But compared to the US, the number is very, very small. So startup companies cannot find companies who wants to buy the company. Also, big companies,
they can't find startups to buy. Well, that's a bad situation. But once you started negotiating, was the negotiations mainly about price, or what was Rozetta most worried about in the deal, and what were they most excited about in the deal?
Rozetta is doing machine translation and also the traditional translation, and they didn't have in-between service. So they were very, very excited about putting crowdsourcing staff in between their businesses. That is the biggest decision that they decided to acquire us. And they are not worried about the price. They went IPO last year, and they didn't acquire that much companies yet. But still, they are not worried about the price.
So they had a lot of IPO money they wanted to spend?
No, actually, they used up most of the assets they have for our company. So it was a big challenge for them, but they didn't worry about that much. That's a strange stuff, but...
What about the Conyac team? Did they know you were negotiating for an M&A?
No, I guess they were thinking that I was not doing anything at the time.
Oh, really? That's not a good situation.
I was in my schedule. I was putting fundraising. So
they didn't know at all.
No.
Oh, well, that must have been very stressful for the team.
It was very, very stressful for me. But they were not. They were doing their jobs every day. And
so the team found out after the deal was done, and you announced it to them?
In the morning of the disclosure, we had a whole team meeting. I talked with them.
What was their reaction?
They were surprised, but they seemed like they are happy about the deal.
Just it feels more stable?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. What about you? What was your feeling after you finally did it?
The biggest feeling was relief. I was relieved about the stuff that I don't have to raise money.
Yeah?
And I don't have to talk about M&A no more.
So it was more a feeling of relief than happiness.
Yeah.
I can understand that.
Yeah. it was hard to, after a month or so, I was a bit stressful about the merger. It's a public company and we are a private company, so many of the rules and stuff are different. But right now it was okay. We got many changes and we are focusing on more on businesses.
That's great. So the attitude towards M&A in Japan is changing.
I guess, yeah, I believe that.
When I sold my first company back in 2001, all of my American friends called me up and said, congratulations, that's great news, let's go have a beer. And all of my Japanese friends called me up and said, oh, I'm so sorry, I know you were working so hard on this and you had to sell, let's go get a beer. I drank a lot of beer that
way. Anyways.
What was the reaction of your friends and your people in the community? Was it positive, negative?
It was positive. Most of my friends are positive reactions, especially entrepreneurs. And also my family really happy about my decision because I was working so hard for like a year and, you know.
I was going to ask, were they happy about the money or were they happy that just your stress level had been released?
About the stress level. I didn't talk about money, anything at the time.
So how has the post-M&A integration gone? Has it been pretty smooth?
Yes. We still have some stuff to be done, like documentation and stuff, but everything seems well.
Everyone kept their job?
Yeah.
Cool. And so how has your job changed since the M&A?
Now, finally, I started to focus on the business, new features and stuff. So I'm happy about it and I can sleep right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about payroll every month.
Yeah.
Are you guys working in the same office? Did they move you into their offices?
No, before the M&A, we talked about the cultures and stuff, and the culture is totally different. So we were asking them to keep our office, and they are okay with that.
Oh, that's good. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart.
Well, there's pros and cons for that stuff, but...
What are the pros and cons?
Some of our friends who did M&A moved their office to the acquiring company. But the good point of changing the office together is they can communicate well about the, like, you know, if they have a business synergy, it'll be better with the same office. But to keep the culture, you probably need to keep the office separated.
So how does it work now? Do different members of the team meet with the Rozetta people, or is it just you or the main interface between Rozetta and the team?
Salespeople are meeting with Rozetta people, and there will be more close company staff.
So it sounds like the integration it's just they're taking it very, very slowly.
Right.
That's probably best for everyone.
Yeah. It will take time, and culture cannot march that fast, so...
That can be hard. What would be the best advice you can give to large companies who have acquired a small one and want the integration to go smoothly?
They need to understand that startup companies dislike the slow culture and stuff. So they need to respect that. And entrepreneurs are usually selfish. They need to understand that, you know.
So they need to take a really hands-off
right.
approach to the company.
For the first few months.
Yeah.
At least.
You know, that's probably the most comfortable way the companies can work together. If the owning company just says, okay, here is your objectives for the next 6 months, and here are your resources to do that, and just do it. That seems like it'd be the smoothest way, the happiest way for the startup side.
Oh, yeah. I guess, but it depends on the entrepreneurs. Some people like to be controlled, and some people dislike that. So,
well, I think most entrepreneurs dislike the control. So they've let you maintain your culture, your processes. They're not making you use like Ringisho or anything.
No.
That's good. So what's next for you? Are you going to stay at Rozetta for years and years? Are you going to start a new company sometime in the future? Are you going to start investing or mentoring? What are you going to do?
Right now, I'm not thinking about starting up a new company. I'm still very, very excited about Conyac business. I believe that Rozetta and our company can be bigger, 10 times bigger within like 5 years. So I will keep doing this business for a while.
That's good. No, that kind of focus is really good and really rare in acquisitions. Especially now that it's been about 4 months. Mm-hmm. In the first month or two, everyone says that. Yeah. But after 4 months, you sort of know what you've gotten yourself into.
But I have many interests about markets. So I will probably invest some money to other companies, small amount, but I can tell little about how to maintain the startups.
I think right now, one of the most important things in the startup community in Japan is having entrepreneur investors, because still most Japanese VCs are finance people.
Yeah.
They've never worked in a startup. Most have never worked in a regular operating company. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's great. You're going to be out there investing and advising.
Many of my senpai entrepreneurs are doing investment for the ecosystem. So, and I respect that activity. So I think it's a good thing to do it.
Have you started yet, or you're still heads down in the integration?
I can't tell right now.
Okay. All good?
Yeah. I believe that there's a sentence that I cannot do the side business of the house.
Okay.
Off the record.
I got you. So we'll just say you're looking at startups. Well, listen, before we wrap up, let me ask you my magic wand question.
Yeah.
And that's, if I gave you a magic wand and I said that you could change one thing about Japan, anything at all, the attitude towards risk, education system, legal system, to make things better for startups, what would you change?
Probably culture. It's an education.
So how would you change it?
I spent time in the States as a student and thought that education system is totally different.
Yeah.
In the States, many people are studying stuff actively. They speak, they
give presentations, they argue.
Right, they argue and they try to get something from every single moment. But Japanese education, you sit and listen. That's the biggest problem we have.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That's almost the exact opposite of the founder mindset.
Right. In the current education system, it would be hard to grow the entrepreneurship mind.
I hear a lot of people say exactly that, including like politicians and educators. Do you see it changing?
It's slightly changing, only a bit, but
bit by bit.
Yeah, but need to have something. Radical change has to be done.
Everyone talks about creativity, but it sounds more like the important thing is proactive, doing things yourself.
Right. Need to think logically and speak up about what they think.
Right, where there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
Just action.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, well, listen, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
I'm not sure what success is, but I think our M&A is not that big. But after the M&A is more important than before M&A, because money is not everything. You have to think about the future in 10 years, 20 years from now. If the service is still there, your business might be successful. If make changes to the market and society, it might be successful. I guess you have to think about the impact and why you are doing.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. So additional money would help you grow a bit faster, but being part of Rozetta, this bigger company, allows you to achieve your real ends much more efficiently.
Right. And to impact to the society.
Okay.
Might be changed.
All right, excellent. Well, listen, thanks again for sitting down with me. And let's not wait so long next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of Japan's largest companies are starting open innovation programs and actively reaching out to global startups. They're new at this, and that's where CREW, with 2 W's, comes in. CREW runs corporate startup accelerators for companies like Toyota and Panasonic and dozens more. And these programs are one of the best ways to jumpstart your business in Japan. Many are open to global startups, and they're completely free. Now, I've known and worked with the CREW team, and they're probably doing more than anyone to bridge the gap between corporate Japan and global startups. So drop by CREW with 2 W's .me/4-startups and get started. And we're back. You know, strategic M&A is still relatively rare in Japan. Most acquisitions are of distressed companies. So I found it both surprising and hopeful that Naoki's experience was that many public companies were interested in strategic acquisitions of startups, and that the problem was more a matter of them being able to determine what startups were potentially for sale. Now, this is something that can be easily solved as, or perhaps if, Japanese investors start taking a more hands-on role in shopping for exits, rather than simply pushing their portfolio companies to IPO as soon as possible. It could be great news for Japanese startups. It also seems that Rozetta is being very smart with its post-acquisition integration plans. Most Japanese companies don't handle the integration well and simply place the startup under several levels of corporate management and begin treating everyone as junior to mid-level employees. It usually doesn't end well. Rozetta is taking a different approach. Rozetta is working closely with the Conyac sales team and with the key executives, but they're having the Conyac team continue to use their old offices with their existing processes and to maintain the corporate culture that led to Conyac's success in the first place. If you want to know more about Conyac or M&A in Japan, Naoki and I would love to hear from you. So come by disruptingjapan.com/show065 and let's talk about it. When you drop by, you'll find the links and sites that Naoki and I talked about and much, much more in the resources section of the post. And when you get the chance, be sure to check out Disrupting Japan Inroads. It's a detailed, real-world case study of Japanese market entry and expansion, and a look inside the minds of some of the best people bringing foreign technology to Japan. And it's a perfect complement to the podcast. So check it out at disruptingjapan.com/inroads. But most of all, thanks for listening. And thank you for letting people interested in Japanese startups know about the show. I'm Tim Romero, and thanks for listening to Disrupting Japan.